The truth about avoidant loneliness, it's not what you think. Loneliness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It hides behind independence, humor, or the calm face of someone who seems perfectly fine being alone. But inside, there's a different story, one that's rarely told, especially when it comes to avoidant individuals. You see, the loneliness of an avoidant person doesn't look like the loneliness most people imagine. They don't cry on the phone at midnight or talk about feeling abandoned. Their loneliness is buried deep under layers of self-protection, a quiet ache they don't allow anyone to see. Avoidant people grow up learning one lesson very early, that closeness comes with pain. Maybe they reached out for love and got rejection instead. Maybe every time they were vulnerable, they were told to toughen up, to stop being too emotional. So they built walls, not the kind made of anger or hate, but the kind made of fear. Fear that if they ever rely on someone, they'll be hurt again. This fear becomes the foundation of how they relate to people. To outsiders, they look calm, confident, self-sufficient. But inside, they're fighting a silent war, a longing for connection that's constantly battling the terror of being dependent on someone else. When they feel lonely, they don't reach out. They retreat. They convince themselves they don't need anyone. They'll say things like, "I'm fine alone," or "people just drain me." And while part of that might be true, the deeper truth is that loneliness for an avoidant person feels unsafe. Because to admit they're lonely means to admit they have needs. And in their world, having needs feels dangerous. It means being vulnerable again. So they choose solitude, not because it truly satisfies them, but because it feels safer than risking rejection. But here's the paradox. The more they protect themselves from connection, the lonelier they become. It's like being stuck behind glass. They can see love, friendship, and closeness happening for others, but they can't quite touch it. They'll scroll through photos of happy couples, families, and close friends, telling themselves they're above all that they prefer freedom. Yet sometimes, late at night, when the world goes quiet, they feel it, that emptiness, that quiet yearning for someone who could see through the walls, understand their silence, and not run away. The loneliness of an avoidant person is made worse by misunderstanding. People often see their distance as arrogance, coldness, or lack of interest. But that's not what's really going on. The truth is, they crave connection just as deeply as anyone else. They just fear it more. It's like wanting to breathe underwater. They long for intimacy, but the moment it's offered, they panic. They pull back, not because they don't care, but because closeness activates old pain. The kind that tells them love is temporary and people eventually leave. You can often recognize this kind of loneliness in small ways. They'll joke about being better off alone, yet their eyes soften when they see genuine affection. They'll avoid deep conversations, yet secretly wish someone would ask them what's really going on. They'll turn down invitations, then scroll through memories of people they once pushed away. They're haunted by their own defense mechanisms. The same walls that once protected them now keep love out. And it's not that they don't notice it. They do. They feel the consequences every time they watch someone drift away because they couldn't open up in time. For many avoidant people, loneliness becomes a silent addiction, a strange kind of comfort zone. They know how to survive in it. They learn to fill their days with work, hobbies, distractions, anything that keeps them from feeling the depth of that isolation. But no matter how busy life gets, that void doesn't disappear. It waits. It shows up when they're sick, when something beautiful happens and there's no one to share it with, or when they realize that independence can't hold them at night. It's in those quiet moments that the truth hits hardest, that being untouchable comes with a heavy price. Yet beneath all this, there's hope. Avoidant people are not broken. They're just deeply guarded. Their loneliness isn't a permanent sentence. It's a sign that their heart still wants to connect, even after everything it's been through. Healing begins not with forcing themselves into closeness, but by slowly learning that needing others doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. It's about taking small risks, answering that text, saying yes to a coffee, or allowing someone to see a bit more of who they are. These tiny moments are how trust begins to rebuild itself, quietly, one interaction at a time. To truly understand the loneliness of an avoidant person, you have to look beyond behavior and see the fear beneath it. You have to recognize that their silence isn't rejection, it's protection. That their distance isn't indifference, it's self-defense. The irony is, the more someone tries to chase them, the more they run. But when someone gives them gentle consistency, patience, and space, they slowly start to lower the walls. Not because they were persuaded, but because they feel safe enough to do so. Safety is the language they understand. But this loneliness isn't just a personal battle, it's a societal one too. We live in a world that praises independence and emotional control while quietly punishing vulnerability. So when an avoidant person withdraws, the world applauds their strength instead of recognizing their pain. We tell people to be self-sufficient, but no one teaches them how to be emotionally available. And so avoidants become the heroes of self-reliance, even as they quietly starve for intimacy. It's a tragic contradiction, to be admired for the very thing that keeps you isolated. If you've ever loved an avoidant person, you know this heartbreak intimately. You've seen the moments when they almost let you in, when their guard slips for just a second and you see the tenderness underneath. But then it vanishes. They go cold again, distant, detached. It feels personal, but it's not. It's just that their mind has learned that love equals loss. The closer you get, the more terrified they become. Loving them requires patience, but not self-sacrifice, because you can't save them from loneliness. Only they can do that by facing the part of themselves that believes they're safer alone. And if you are an avoidant person watching this, hear this carefully. Your loneliness doesn't mean you're incapable of love. It means you've been hurt so deeply that your nervous system still thinks safety equals distance. But safety isn't the same as peace. Peace is when you can let love in without feeling like it's going to destroy you. And that begins when you stop seeing your need for connection as a weakness and start seeing it as the most natural part of being human. In the end, understanding the loneliness of an avoidant person is about compassion, not pity. It's about realizing that behind every quiet, self-reliant individual, there's often a child who learned that love was unreliable. That child grew up into someone who looks strong but carries invisible wounds. The real strength isn't in pushing people away, it's in having the courage to try again, even after love once broke you. Because no matter how avoidant someone becomes, deep down, they still hope that one day, someone will stay long enough to prove them wrong about love. If this message resonates with you, remember this. Healing avoidance doesn't happen overnight, but every time you let someone in, even just a little, the loneliness starts to loosen its grip. You begin to realize that connection doesn't have to mean pain, and that vulnerability, while scary, might just be the doorway to the peace you've been searching for all along.